it's a weird thing to say. We need the storms, but for some reason, us humans are funny that way, where through the storm, if you're willing to go there, there's a reservoir deep inside of us that we rarely ever tap into. And there's so much more that we are capable of doing if we only allow ourselves to do it. Sometimes it takes our backs against the wall. It takes the oh shit moment where I'm going bankrupt, or I'm on the verge of divorce, or I'm addicted to something, or to cause us to really rise above that.
What if the storms in your life aren't there to stop you, but to shape you? Ron Alford thought he had his path mapped out. Raised in a military family, he was set to follow his brothers into the Marine Corps. But a detour into a door-to-door book sales led to a decades-long journey in leadership, coaching, and transformation. Now a senior partner at Southwestern Consulting and best-selling author of Redefining Possible, Ron helps people unlock confidence, navigate adversity, and lead with authenticity. This isn't just a lesson in leadership and mentorship. It's a reminder to persevere and to release what you can't control. Only on Navigating Now. I am so excited to have you on, Ron, because you're a senior partner and executive coach with Southwestern Consulting. And I've had the honor of not only reading your book, but hearing you speak at CEO to CEO, and you deliver a message. And for me to be in the audience as a speaker as well, to hear your message just really hit home. And I was like, man, I really want him on this podcast, because your story is just phenomenal about overcoming struggles and challenges in your life that you're out of control on. And I just think that you continue to preach this in not only your book, but then with helping thousands of people within your business too, and as a consultant. And so I just wanted to stress from the bottom of my heart, it is an absolute honor to have you on this podcast and for everyone to hear your message. So thank you.
Yeah. No, Blue, when you asked, I was honored. Your message and your impact is wide. So it's neat when we can talk about things that are so relatable, whether it's in a room of CEOs like that, or whatever, man, stay-at-home moms, retirees, whatever. Like, we all have these things. So honored to be here.
Well, and it's all relatable, right? Like, everybody has deals with rejection and failure and self-doubt, and this confidence building and letting go of things that you're out of control with, or that you're not in control of. And it's hard for everyone. Everyone can relate to those messages and those struggles. And it's like, to know that you're not alone, and that if somebody else has gone through it before me, like, how awesome is it to be able to hear somebody's message and be able to put their hand on you and say, you're not alone. You've got this. I'll help you through it. Or tell yourself this, self-talk this. This is what worked for me. Because the struggles that you've encountered are things that people have. You're not alone of experiencing that. But at the same time, it's like, you've gone through that fire. And if I can see you made it through it, then that just gives me a little bit more drive and ability and belief in myself, and like faith that I can do it too. And so your message hits par on that. And so if you could, I would love for you just to kind of go through your story and your journey of where you got to where you are today and some of the major struggles along that way.
Yeah. Happy to. I'll go through, and you tell me where you'd want me to go deeper. Military kid. So dad was 40 plus years military. Both big brothers went into the Marine Corps, and I graduated high school in a little island in Alaska on the tip of the Aleutian Islands. And I was prepping for boot camp. I was who doesn't want to follow in the footsteps of their big brothers? And so that's where I was at as a 19-year-old kid. And I had a buddy of mine tell me, like, hey, we're going to do this crazy summer job. We're going to sell educational books door to door to help families. And it's like 80 something hours a week of work. And we'd have to relocate to a different part of the nation and find our own host family. And it's like straight commissions. So you might not make anything. Do you want to do it? And
sounds great.
Quite a pitch, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy, I still get goosebumps telling that, because it's, for some reason, I was at a season of my life where it was like, heck yeah. Because this 4-year commitment of the Marine Corps was daunting. And the idea of doing this other thing for 12 weeks was like, oh, that sounds like a piece of cake. I can always do the Marine Corps after this. Yeah. And so, Blue, that's a long way of answering that. That's how I was introduced to Southwestern.
Mm-hmm.
Did an internship with them 32 years ago. And long story short, eventually ended up going to Seattle Pacific University and kind of working my way through college, paid my way through school from those summer savings, and started building teams. And I was on that side of the Southwestern family of companies for 20 years. And just loved it. The principles, the history, like what the deeper had nothing to do with selling books. It was all about what you're learning and who you're impacting. And so then in 2013, I knew it was time for a move.
Mm-hmm.
I was there 20 years and it was like, okay, I'm 40 years old.
But you're rising the ranks too. Like it's not like you were just selling books the whole time. Like
yeah,
you
the
moved
better
up.
part of those 20 years, I was the director of the West Coast in Canada for, a number of campuses and universities. And so kind of guiding the recruiting efforts and helping lead these armies of students every summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I believed in it, but I also just knew I was kind of itching for something different, and looked at a ton of different things, decided to stay within the family of companies to kind of a newer startup, which is Southwestern Consulting, our coaching and consulting space. And that's where I've been the last 13 years now, 12, 13 years. And so 32 years with the same company, even though there's been kind of different roles there. And so,
Sure.
as you know, live in Seattle, blended family. I was a single dad for a number of years and then married my wife, Desiree, who was a single mom. And so now it's our kind of imperfect blended family doing this thing.
But so you're putting on a new t-shirt and you wanted to stay within the family because it's so rare now that that people stay, let's say, loyal to a company, unless there's some kind of like stock option or something like that. Most people pick up and move. And so is there something that at that 20-year mark, you're like, oh, I want to look for something different? It's like, what opened it up to, let's stay within this family? Because a lot of people jump ship, pun intended, because I know you and I will talk about an anchor later, but it's like what kept you there? Like, what was the main factor that kind of kept you grounded? Was it being able to stay in the Seattle area? Like, what was it?
Yeah. It had nothing to do with, if anything, this was the worst option it could have been. I had a number of options that were more of a guaranteed, cushy landing.
Mm-hmm.
When you go from an income level and then suddenly you're starting over, like there were a number of options that made a lot more sense. And this was the one that was like, man, you're really betting on yourself. It's kind of a startup and you can be in on the early levels of building this thing. But what made me stay was these principles. Like I've tripped into this company that was all about, helping people be who they want to become. It's principles over personalities. Like it's not about me kind of thing. Like what wealth is impact, right? Like not believing this lie of comparison and who trying to be something I'm not. But the leaders that I had, the colleagues I had, just incredible examples. And so to me, to be a part of that and to help build it and to kind of pay it forward was the reason.
Well, and I'm sure that along the way you were seeing the impact that you were making too with clients and with the feedback that you were getting back from, let's say, your leaders and your colleagues as well. It's like being able to work in an environment where people are supportive of you, increasing and getting better pay and like moving up along the ranks. And it's like when you're getting that feel, it does make you feel welcomed and like you belong to something. And I'm assuming that being a part of a group that not only fosters that culture, because that's what everybody talks about with like, oh, we got to change our culture. We need our culture better. We need to make everybody feel included. And it's like, obviously they were doing something like that for you, or you were also promoting that within. And it was like, I guess, basically like a petri dish where it just, that culture kind of blended and it just worked well.
Well said. It was both sides. Exactly right. I was being fed and like anyone, I was going through my own life challenges. And so having the support that helped me get through and then being able to be a support. I just always remember that first summer. I ended that summer and I made almost 15 grand. This was 32 years ago. I was a 19-year-old kid. I never had any money. And it was like, sure. I got this check for almost 15 grand and bought a brand new truck and but then within a couple weeks, it was like, it wasn't really meaningful. And realizing that next summer, I brought 5 of my friends with me and was able to kind of mentor them and help them and support them, and seeing them get good checks and learn about themselves. And like, that was where the light bulb went off of like, and that's where the joy comes from, man. That's where the fulfillment comes from, is when it's not about me. And so I was fortunate at a young age to learn that.
Yeah.
And I, of course, had examples that showed me that. And that, so to your point, that is now hardwired in my DNA, where I want to feel like when I go to bed at night, something I may have said or did or made a difference in that family, made a difference in that company. There's a ripple effect that's far and wide, maybe even generational, that is coming from this.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because it's almost like when you're working with a company or working with a client, that's one thing, but it also made it, and even at 19, you're learning to be a better dad, right? A better husband, a better friend, because you're learning all of these specific things of like, wow, being able to share like my experience and my knowledge and stories with other people just makes it a better experience, a better community or a group of people that you're working with all the time. And it's like, how lucky it is that you were able to see that. And you mentioned something about like when these 5 guys came on and you brought them on, you were able to see them get a big check, and how fulfilling it was for you to share that reward of like that. This is how you do it. This is how you talk to someone. This is how you network. This is how you accept a no, or this is how you do your follow up. And being able to share that as a mentor to someone is really, really fulfilling, especially to me. I mean, that's, as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, that's what I love. Right.
Yeah.
But I also didn't realize the power of that until I became a parent too, because it's our kids that we can pass that knowledge and experience down and show them the ropes in hopes that they act a certain way or treat other people and they're good human beings in this world and make our community better. And it's like, it really came out when I became a parent, because when they act the way that they do, when they don't know that they're being watched, especially by us, I call it a parental dividend. And it's like a dividend to me and my wife, Heidi, that it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing something good. Right.
Yeah.
And we see the confidence boost in our kids just because of something that we've kind of shed or led them in a certain way. And that is the greatest reward. And you do that in your work, Ron, as well as with your family.
Yeah. I love that, buddy. The parental dividend. I love the way you framed that. I agree. I think that's why you and I, very like-minded. My 3 kids now are all 3 teenagers, and it's not the easiest season, and it's so rewarding. It's like so fun, because to your point, those little glimpses in between the puberty season, of like where the way they treated someone, or the way they forgave someone, or the way they didn't judge, they weren't critical. They looked in the mirror, they controlled what they could. They let go of something that, the little victories where it's like, man, maybe there is something I'm doing that's being passed down.
Yeah.
And so that's so rewarding.
Well, and you're this leader, you're like this executive coach and consultant, and it's like you have teams below you and you have people that you're helping and mentoring within the company. And it's like, when you see them get those checks, even today, is it just as rewarding as it was when you had your 5 friends?
Absolutely. Last week I flew to Rome, Georgia, to like middle of dang nowhere outside of Atlanta, to go do this festival with a client, a guy I've been coaching for a couple of years, that was going to do his first marathon. And it was this big kind of wellness retreat. And he invited me, he wanted me to be there. And I was like, dude, I'm in, man, I'm going. Wow. And to be there and see Tim, spend the time with him, see him do his first marathon, like that's just a very recent example within the last few days of, maybe it's they bought a company, maybe they acquired someone, maybe they're getting close to retirement, or they accomplished something else on their vision board, or whatever the thing is. But feeling like you somehow played a little role in that is just so gratifying. Absolutely.
Well, and it does, and it's like when you see those parental dividends or company dividends, however you want to call it, it really does bring so much value, and it's a story and a memory that you can share with other people. And that if you tell that story, Like, my wife went into a UPS store with our daughter, and our daughter ran over to the door and held it open for this lady with like 5 boxes. We didn't tell her to go do it. She just ran over and did it.
Like,
And
yeah,
then when the lady came in, she goes, "Can I take some of your boxes from you?" I was like, that's the epitome of a parental dividend, right?
yeah.
Like, you want them to act that way, but she did it on her own accord. Like, she didn't do it. And it's like, when that happens, I can tell that story from the stage and people can relate to it. And we all have those little experiences where you teach someone something and they run with it. And it's so great because that one action could be a complete ripple effect to teams or leadership groups or 2,000 attendees at an audience that I speak to next week, right? Like, you don't know what that story can do or what impact or exposure can be created about that. But it was all because of my kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on. For all the imperfect parents listening, let's be honest, we have plenty of moments too where our kids mess it up and they're looking at their device. They don't go open the door for someone else
Yeah.
but yeah, we're all human, but giving ourselves grace. And then when we do see the victories like that, it's like, come on, that's the stuff worth focusing on. So love it.
Well, and it is being able to focus on it. But another reason that I know that you personally can focus on it is because you have gone through trauma and you appreciate tomorrow and you appreciate the time with your kids and your time with your family, because we're not guaranteed that. And a lot of people never experience that what if something happens experience. And you did experience that. And if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to tell that story about just some of the trauma and where you had no control and you didn't know what to do next with your family.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to. I mentioned earlier I was a single dad, and my twin boys were, 4, 5, 6, etc. When they were about 7, I started dating Desiree, who's now my wife, and we were in that early stages, and just felt like, wow, like I really found this person I'm ready to spend the rest of my life with. I was thinking about adopting her daughter, who had never met her biological father. And then it was August of 2016 that they, Seattle Children's basically told us that one of my boys had leukemia. And at the time, I didn't really know how blood cancers worked. I didn't know what that meant. So like any parent, it was just, it was a 7-year-old boy. Like all you're thinking about is getting him ready for second grade and, all these kind of things. And man, the next 4 years of his life, a lot of our life was living at Seattle Children's Hospital, like going through, the treatments and all the chemo and all the stuff, and seeing him gain a ton of weight and then lose weight, and just all the stuff you go through. When he was 11, they announced him cancer-free. We got to ring the bell, and he's now 16. And it's interesting that the most recent part of this story is, and this is where I think a lot of times we see physical things with people, like, oh, that poor kid, lost his hair. You could tell it, they may have some sort of situation that's visible, or they lost a leg, or well, you and I both know, man, there's a lot of internal you don't see, the mental health stuff. Because right now on the exterior, one of my 3 kids looks healthy as could be, but is dealing with an enormous amount of anxiety and just worry, like way more worry than any teenagers should ever have to deal with. And so it's just, I think hopefully that's the relatable part for any parent, is like, gosh, you don't have to have a child declared, diagnosed with cancer. The things our kids go through, we all are in this together, man. Our kids are going to go through a lot of hurt and challenge and struggle. And it just taught me as a parent, like, okay, maybe it isn't all about the biggest scholarships they get and how popular they are and them being the varsity captains of their sports teams. And like, that stuff's cool too.
Yeah.
But dude, I just want to have my kid healthy. I just want to enjoy a meal with them and hang out and throw the ball with them. And, all those things. That perspective is overwhelming how important it is. And that's one thing I've been taught now that I'm in my 50s, is I kind of need perspective as much as I need air and water. Like it's that important.
Well, and it's just a horrible position to be in, and how long, 4 years to go through that of unknown, and how much. One of the things you mentioned on stage was that it was just like you were spending the nights there. And it was like, because when he woke up, you didn't want him to be alone, and you were there, and you wanted your face to be seen. And it's like, because I don't want my kid to feel alone, or a nurse is one thing, but it's like, they would need to know that they're safe. And like you said, like all I want is my kid to be happy and have joy in their life and be healthy and experience any of the experience of happiness that I have, right? Like, cause that's really what I want is I don't need them to have more than I had. Like, oh, you need a jet now, cause I never had a jet. It's more like, I want you to experience being able to go out on, like, I don't know if you do this, but when I'm with the kids, I'm always listening to my 80s music, and I break down the songs. I'm like, this is what they're talking about. Like, this is what it means. Like to what it looks like of wanting a summer never to end, and have the top pulled down, and just the breeze of some, like the sun and the summer, and just being able to be a kid. And they're listening to the words, but to me, it means so much because I've experienced those things. And that's the wealth that I want my kids to have, is those experiences where they're like, man, don't take for granted tomorrow because it's not guaranteed. But it's like, just reminiscing and being able to talk with my friends about things, it's just, you don't want them to end. You never ever want them to end. Never after should look like the best times of our lives.
Yeah. Love that. I've made the mistake of trying to describe like AC/DC songs or Motley Crue or those ones. And it's like, ooh, not a good one.
Yeah.
But then the more wholesome,
good ones. It's okay.
The more wholesome songs are, let's break them down. And that's great, man. It's, God, what's the book? I'm listening to a book right now where it's talking about
Redefining Possible.
Well, that's a good
that's your book.
That one, Die with Zero. It's called Die with Zero.
With Zero.
Yeah, and it's just a cool book where, because so much of life is about, like how much can we accumulate, and just, I got to have the biggest this and the most that, and then it's like, what the heck were we chasing? You have this realization that none of that. So it's the premise. You don't have to read the book to get the premise of, dude, go spend it. Go do the trip early. Go do the stuff. Like, obviously responsibly. You don't want to get in a ton of debt and all that. But the author does a great job of really kind of walking you through a lot of, metaphors and analogies and historical kind of science behind how memories work. And the sooner we get a memory, well, there's a long time effect. If I get a memory in my 20s, I have 60 years to enjoy that memory.
Yeah.
Versus people that get more memories in their 60s and they might only have 20. You get the point.
Yeah. 100%. And it's like, I have all of these, and whenever I connect with somebody that I haven't talked to for a long time, especially the friends that you could pick up the phone and they're it's just like it was yesterday, right? Even though it was a year. And I have my friend Adam, and I can do that. And it's like, you reminisce about these stories, and they remember things you don't. And it's just like, those memories are what make us who we are. And they can be small, they could be great, but it's like, I really want all of those great memories, because those are the ones that I don't ever want to die. And those are the ones that I want to be able to pass along to my kids, even though I force them to listen to Motley Crue or Skid Row or
exactly.
Guns N' Roses. But
parents did us.
Ron, I am trying. But they do.
I had to listen to Elvis and all the old Alabama, all the old stuff too. So.
Oh my God, I love that. One of the things that you also mentioned, though, is that it's like being able to change perspective. And your perspective is like, we know that we're gonna come along storms in the future. Like, there's no guarantee it's gonna rain out tomorrow. There might not be a tsunami for another 20 years here, but at the same time, it's like there's gonna be high winds. There's gonna be all of these crazy snowstorms, or where we can't get out. But life is full of storms. And one of the things that you mentioned in your book is about having a confidence anchor. And it's like having these abilities to be able to anchor yourself down and know that you can keep moving forward, but you always have something to fall back on that gives you that little bitty boost of confidence. And people mention this all the time. Do one thing. Mel Robbins mentions this, just like, if get up and do it, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to experience something, but it's like, just do it.
Yeah.
And just sometimes telling yourself that I've done it before, I can probably do it again. and maybe it's a little different, but I can always get better. And knowing and having that little confidence anchor is so important. And you mentioned that in your book. And I loved how that metaphor or analogy really rang out to me, because it does, it gives you that little bitty boost to be able to take that step forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And I think it's more of an unconditional, like anyone can manipulate a false confidence or a bravado act as if, and most people can sniff that out. You can tell, you can feel it when it's fake.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's the way you describe that is so good. The anchor is rooted in controllables. And so hopefully evidence. Every one of your listeners can think of times in their teen, their academic lives, their sports lives, their careers, where the odds were stacked against them and they overcame it. Man, pay attention to that, store it, firmly plant that in your memory, not with ego or arrogance or like, look at me, but more in a manner of gratitude. And like, man, that's cool. Like I've been given these giftings where I'm able to do that. And that's this, hopefully superpower, if you will, of anchored, true, unconditional confidence. So that, to your point, when, not if, the next storms hit tonight, tomorrow, the stock market's going to plunge. We know the person you don't want to get elected into office is going to get elected.
Mm-hmm.
The weather's going to suck. Whatever, all these things are going to happen. And when it happens, okay, I'm a little more ready for it. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to, get all petty and small and all that. I'm going to rise above. And so I think that's a good way to put it.
Well, and you hit home with that in the book, and it just resonated so well with me, because it's just like my entire life I've done that. And I think we all have. Like, you learn to add, and then you learn to multiplication, and then it's just like they just start stacking. And if you had never learned how to add, you wouldn't be where you are, right? And so it's like these little skills, these meta skills that you learn that just add upon each other. And you can always look back and say, hey, if I did that one time, I can't handle this, even if it looks dangerous and it looks scary and I'm terrified to do so. And like scaling your business, it's terrifying to hire people. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to go work in order to pay somebody to work for me. It's like,
that's responsible for them, and
terrifying. Yeah. Yes. And so it's like, but if I can put myself back at a time where I bought something that I thought was a little bit more than I could afford at the moment, but I was able to pay it off, like a car, and eventually I paid it off. Okay, I can do it. I can believe in myself. Like, you take on a home loan or a car loan, you believe in yourself enough to be able to make those payments.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, if I paid off a house, or I paid off a car, or I paid off a credit card once, like, I can do it again, even though it might be a bigger purchase, even though it might be a little more terrifying. And having that confidence anchor is just so straight on, Ron, and I loved it.
I can't agree more. The one thing I would encourage people to do that I've made the mistake of, and I've started to get a little better with it, because I think everyone that's listening right now would say, okay, I know that. Like this isn't a brand new thought, but we all know it's the application of truth that matters, right? Are we consistently applying these principles that matter? Or do we just know it as IQ knowledge, but we're not doing anything with it? So to your point, are we slowing down a little bit in the next couple of weeks before Q4 hits to think, okay, what are other times in my life where I finished the year strong? Holidays were crazy. Weather got crazy. Inevitable things didn't go as planned over the holidays like they always do. And yet I had a great season. And so you kind of get yourself prepared for appropriate seasons.
Mm-hmm.
If I look over my screen right now, my computer screen, I've got multiple what I would call confidence anchor boards. Those are past vision boards. So in the past, it was things I hoped for my future. Well, it's now 5, 10, or even more years from my past. And at least once or twice a week, I can go over and just kind of look at these boards and breathe them in and put my hands on it and pray about it. And just like it kind of refills my cup and reminds me, okay, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, because it reminds you of other seasons where things weren't going perfectly, but yet it turned out well.
Well, and I think you're talking about like a storyboard, and when we spoke, you actually had an example of it, and you showed the example of that storyboard. But it's just like anything, and I tell people all the time, especially kids, when I talk to like colleges or high school, it's like, write your goals down so you can physically see them.
Yep.
As an actor and a model, they have the storyboards and they have the pictures of like, this is the way that we want to look. This is kind of the story that we think. And you try to manifest that and try to achieve it. And so whether it's you putting something on your fridge that you see every day, or you have the storyboard in front of you, like your confidence anchor,
Yep.
Seeing it consistently all the time reminds you of that's your goal. That's what you can do. But it will amaze you because, and I think I asked you this question, which was that how often have you looked at that picture board and had to change the pictures out because you hit that goal way faster than you ever thought possible. And it's only because it wasn't an audacious goal that was high enough for you, right? Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I said a year to write a book and I did it in 6 months. Well, now what? Right. And it's only because you see it on written, or you have a picture of a book, that you can take it away and throw it away and now add something new.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. There's some of them taking a little longer than I hoped, and some of them happen faster than I hoped, but it's, they all work out. It keeps you humble too, man. I think there's always that fine line of like the confidence but also like, okay, man, the older I get, the more I realize I need to keep learning. Like, never let me be that dude with the arms crossed, sitting there acting like you know it all. Like, I got to get out and hire, invest in my mind, invest in my heart, make sure I'm getting fed, because we all have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. And we haven't hit our superpower. And you had mentioned this earlier. It's like, how do you continuously grow and improve yourself? You got to be that shark. It consistently keeps swimming, right? Looking for its next meal and growing and getting bigger, become a daddy megalodon. But it's like, even the person that is crossing their arms, that thinks that they know everything, all of a sudden they can get hit by a storm that they did not expect. And I know that you had, Southwestern Consulting had gone through like COVID, and what that looked like with possible layoffs. How do you keep people on? What do you tell people? Or is everybody going to work from home? How are we going to do something that expects people to be person to person,
in person?
And you came up with this whole RAFT acronym. And it's like, how did you apply that? And can you explain to our audience what the RAFT acronym stands for, and like how you utilize that as a leader to get through COVID, which was one of the biggest storms for your company?
Yeah. Heck yeah. Boy, right when you mentioned it, it gives me a smile on my face, because I'm just so appreciative of that. The example you used, like a lot of your listeners, COVID knocked us on our butt at first. Our whole model, our entire business model, was built on going in front of teams of 5 or 20 or 30 or whatever amount of, usually salespeople or leaders, and doing these workshops, everything. And we have coaches in 19 countries, and we're all over the dang globe. And suddenly you can't, as you know, and it was like everything we did was turned upside down. We had hundreds of workshops booked ahead for the, March, April, and May, when all this hit in 2020, that canceled. And you of course have that initial, like, we're screwed. We are screwed. Like, what's my next? Let me get my resume ready. And
what can I do, let alone the company? Like, you got to look out for yourself, right? Like, when the oxygen mask falls down, you got to be able to put it on yourself.
You got it. So I'm as human as anyone, where I looked, got a little petty. And so the RAFT technique, and this is where it's so, interesting, where the RAFT. So the R is the realization something's happening. I'm supposed to fly to Orange County this Sunday night. Maybe my flight's going to be delayed. I don't want to land late because I have something right when I land. Maybe my wife and I have date night tonight, and then I see a text right after this podcast where she says, I'm going to be home late. We have to cancel, or whatever. So there's this realization that COVID has hit, the world's shutting down, or my flight is delayed, whatever the thing is. The A is then the acceptance of the reality. And you and I both know that is the hardest of the four. Like, for humankind and the history of humans to accept what is, because we all have this hardwired tendency to resist things that we cannot control. And, the old saying says that, it's my resistance to what is that causes my suffering in life. So when I resist that it's windy out, or I live in an area where I can't move, or here's my income, or this is my boss, or this is I have this color eyes, or I'm this tall, or this is my, whatever my thing is, the acceptance of that situation. So for us to take a breath, accept that COVID hit, once we realized this wasn't going to go away soon, this was a real thing that was sticking with us.
Mm-hmm.
Then the F in RAFT is then we can then focus on the controllables. And obviously that sounds so simple. We all tell our children, just focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
Control the controllables.
It's
But
easier said than done.
come on.
Easier preached than done. Yes.
Exactly. But what happens is that once you've got the full acceptance, and then it's like there's something that happens where you just get this your mind, almost this kind of bulletproofness about you that's like, okay, bring it on. Let's go. We're not going to worry about all that. You get this tunnel vision. You all know what it's like to stay in your lane, not worried about anything going on around the world, but you've got this locked in focus. And that's what happened with us as a company. Once we kind of rallied around that, it allowed us to focus on the controllables. Then the T of RAFT, the last part of it, is we then transform this negative emotion, this negative situation, and turn it into glory. Like it's the fire. It's a hotter burning fire. So it's turned into basically better than it ever could have been. It ends up aiding us in our vision. Well, and you see it with sports teams at halftime. You see it with, could be golfers, could be, business people, whatever, churches, nonprofits, you name it. But that RAFT, it's kind of a cool little way to think about it.
Well, and I love it because I agree with you 100% about the acceptance, because nobody wants to accept that the cards were dealt to you in that way, right? But there's nothing you can do, right? I can complain about it, I can dwell on it, I can go down to the dark side if I want to, I can be resentful and hateful, but it's like, okay, so now I accept it, and so now how do we turn the table on that, right? And how do we focus on that? And I think that the focusing and having that tunnel vision really allows you to realize like what you're good at, what you can. But then it also, and I think you mentioned this, is that, it starts sparkling in my mind in the sense that it makes you brainstorm and you think like you wouldn't be thinking. Yeah. Because when life depends on it, you're going to act a certain way that's different. When you put full intent and purpose behind something, it's different than just doing it mediocre, right? And it's like when you're focused 100%, it's like every little decision now could affect something in a different way, but then it opens up a whole new room for you as you're traveling down the road. You're like, you didn't expect that. It could have been a blessing in disguise. And if you hadn't focused on what you're going to, you would have never noticed it. It would have passed you by. And so it's like that brainstorm, especially when you're with a company of people that are dealing with it together, and you're a mastermind group coming together. It's like, all of a sudden, all this brainstorming goes and ideas start popping up that would have never come to. I mean, there were so many benefits to COVID. Most people, you and I wouldn't be doing this podcast online if it hadn't been for Zoom, starting Riverside and all these things. It's like all of these benefits. I didn't know that I could train outside of just my local gym, right? And it's like there were a lot of benefits to it. It taught me, how to connect with people all over the world and to reconnect with people. So there's a lot of benefits. And that never would have happened if we hadn't put our heads down and said, let's figure this out.
Truth. So it's a weird thing to say. We need the storms, but for some reason, us humans are funny that way, where through the storm, if you're willing to go there, there's a reservoir deep inside of us that we rarely ever tap into. And there's so much more that we are capable of doing if we only allow ourselves to do it. Sometimes it takes our backs against the wall. It takes the oh shit moment where I'm going bankrupt, or I'm on the verge of divorce, or I'm addicted to something, or to cause us to really rise above that. And, as a company, to your point, that's when we shifted, and we now have we're really grateful. We have a virtual model where we can still go in person to teams, but we now do a lot of workshops virtually. We can hire coaches in countries where we don't have to be, there's so much that has happened that way. Yeah, that just makes it such a big difference. The one other last little thing I'd add on the raft, just going back to when my son got sick, is it at that point, once we had kind of accepted the reality of what this leukemia diagnosis looked like and got our minds calmed down and focused on what we could control, I'm telling you, it's been such a neat thing. My son has spoken at numerous nonprofits and events and things like this over the last couple of years that he never would have been able to do now, because people want to hear his story and
Mm-hmm.
people want to hear, and his message is if he uses it,
Powerful.
he's going to have such a platform and a way to impact people that he never would have had. So pretty cool.
One, it can be that blessing in disguise, but only if you look at it that way. And sometimes only through looking back can you see how you made it through that storm. And maybe it wasn't the worst storm in the world, right? Like it wasn't. There's always somebody with a worse storm than you. And that's another way to look at it too. You're like, okay, both, your kids are here, right? And a lot of people have been unfortunate where they've lost a child. And it's like, that's horrible too. And it's like, I could never put myself in their shoes, but you can experience this. And it makes you feel, it makes you appreciate life. It makes you appreciate the good that you're doing and the impact that you can make on, let's say, our kids or your team or your friends and your family. And it's like just knowing that you can make a difference in this world and not to dwell on the negatives because somebody else is going to have it worse than you really can help you make it through it too. It's that self-talk about I'm not alone and I have value in this world and I can bring that to light. And that's what you're doing every day as a leader.
Yeah, you hit it. One of my colleagues, one of my business partners, Steve, always says, "Man, I'm getting bitter. I'm getting better." Like every little thing that happens during the day, I mean, I'm either getting bitter and woe is me, and I was wronged, and look at them, why that, or I'm getting better. I'm taking a breath and I'm thinking, how can I be better? And it's so simple, but it's just such a cool little way to look at it. We're either getting bitter or we're getting better.
Oh my God, I love that because and you as a leader and being a dad, you're able to see all these things and experience things through other people. And as a podcast host, I have met so many incredible people and heard so many incredible stories and how they've overcome that journey and overcome that struggle or that challenge. And some of the quotes, you talk about lifetime learning. It's like, I'm just sitting here taking notes sometimes on people. And one of my favorite episodes was with my friend Jennifer Teskey. And she mentioned that too, because she's the principal at my daughter's elementary school. And she's like, you could either be bitter or you can be better. And it's just like, and I think she got that off of a speaker who speaks to youth. And it's just like, it's so, that little mantra can change your perspective 100%. It's like, what am I going to be mad at everybody? And how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be the mean old cantankerous old coot? Or you like
critical?
Yeah. Or do you want to be a positive, optimistic person, even when it sucks, even when the storm is there? And it just brings so much more happiness and joy to people when you cannot dwell on the negative and say, what can I control? How do I focus on this? And what can I transform and turn into a positive? Because you have the choice that's in your control, how you choose to deal with it, how you choose to perceive that's happening to you. That is in your control, even though it sucks. Or that plate, you started out on home base and everybody else started out on third. That's like, you hear that all the time, and it's true. Not everyone starts out on first or second base. And the people that believe that they've earned it. Oh, I earned it. Well, like, you kind of started on second base already, and it's not fair.
Everybody knows.
Right. And everybody else knows, but the person who's starting at home and is like, man, yeah, I've got to swim upstream all the time.
Yep.
And I think we all have those experiences, like learning Japanese. I would take Japanese courses, and I lived and worked in Japan and did college over in Japan. And for the Chinese students, they at least already knew how to read and write most of everything, all the kanji characters, whereas I had to learn everything, right? And so they
Yeah.
were already starting out on second base. And it was like I had to work twice as hard to
Yeah.
get just as good as they were. But I didn't dwell on it. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed the process because I focused in on it. Like, I'm not going to blame them. I'm better at them at something. So why would I be bitter at them? Good for them that they know that. But now it's time for me to prove that I can do it. And how much more cool is it that I learned that, right? Like this high school wannabe quarterback did it, then I can do
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's a neat exercise. This sounds gloomy to some people, but just really getting in touch with our mortality. And gosh, I don't know about you, but there's something really special about going to a funeral or a celebration of life. My wife's aunt passed last month, and we went to her. And as obviously grieving and sad, there's also something so positive that can be taken away, where it causes me to reflect and kind of get in touch with the end. And what do I want to be known for? What am I willing? And to your point, the ones where you are talked about at those kind of events, funerals or celebrations of life, are the people that had to overcome something. They made something out of nothing. Very little is said about just, oh, so and so was the most talented ever. They were born with the brains. But it's the people that made something out of what they could, against the odds, if you will. And so it's weird in a weird way. Let the odds be stacked against me. Bring on the challenges, because that refines us.
Well, and it is a great reminder of how to be appreciative of what you have, and see like, wow, I was lucky, or I was given this. And it also opens up the opportunity of like being able to hear stories and memories and sharing those with other people. Like, do you remember when she did this? And it just brings this happiness to everybody. And it's like, oh my goodness, right? And one of my favorite things, honestly, is when you hear something that you didn't know. Like somebody mentions that they changed their life or impacted them. Like, just for example, your story can have a ripple effect, and your book could completely impact somebody. You don't know what the reach or influence that has, but somebody can hear you speak. Someone can hire you as their consultant, come in as their advisor, and you completely transform their company. And then later down in life, when your kids hears it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know my dad did that. How awesome that you hear this story. And it makes them appreciate you that much more, but just the pride behind that. And that's another thing, is that the pride of knowing people and knowing that they have made a difference is just one of those memories that you can take with you too.
Yeah, love that. So for all the listeners out there, they talk about wedding crashers, right? Go crash a funeral. Go jump into a couple of funerals the next month. And
Leave it to Ron to throw that. You went from morbid to happy. I love it. See, you totally took the conversation. You focused on the positive. See,
you can crash my funeral someday. I'm not going to be so uptight where I don't.
Oh, don't challenge me, because my wife tells me I'm way too optimistic. She's like, you need to bring it down a little bit, right?
No,
That's awesome.
Well, hopefully the listeners don't take that the wrong way. There's a sensitivity there, but we obviously want to honor. But I just think it helps you reflect. And
yes,
most of us, it's hard not to be. Everything's so fast paced now with social media and AI and everything changing. So how do I slow down, get rid of the technology for a minute? Really audit my life. How am I doing? Once a quarter, that's one thing we do with clients, is kind of really go through every little part of their life and just audit how we doing, what's rocking, what do we want to be grateful for, and then what are the little gaps, what are the areas we want to tighten up in the weeks and months ahead. And we all need to do that.
And we all need to improve. And that's one of the greatest ways to do that, is to think about it and write it down and have that brainstorming or that confidence anchor storyboard in front of you that just reminds you, like, I can keep moving forward, and to be appreciative and to be able to reflect back on that. I love that.
Yes.
If you were to talk to your past self, and maybe you just mentioned this, but if you were to say to your past self one thing based off of our conversation today that you would want everyone to know and take away, what would that one thing be?
Well, one is tough. I think slow down. I think for me, it's really interesting. I can really look back at the last couple of years, the days where I started slow, got quiet, had time in the morning to just kind of stretch. I would lay with my dog. I get my thoughts right, get my head right, get my heart right, really get clear about the day, kind of visualize the day and how I'm going to respond to everything. And wow, it's crazy how much more joyful I go to sleep that night and how much more is accomplished. I'm not just busy being busy.
Mm-hmm.
The other days where I've messed this up are the days when I wake up, I jump right into my phone and I just jump right into email and my Outlook calendar and just, task. What's next? And it's like, dude, that's hamster living. And
Rat race.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's to slow down. It's just such a cliche thing, smell the roses kind of thing. But it's just, I'm now starting to really build in more white space in my calendar, go for a walk at lunch, close my eyes for 5 minutes, little areas where I can refill my cup.
Yeah.
Because I know if my cup is full and it's overflowing, man, I'm so much more effective in everything I do that day. So
and you can share it too.
Exactly.
100%. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, like, oh, I can stretch and wake up and be on my own time, control my own mornings. And I used to say that as a strength coach to people all the time. It's like, you can control your morning more than anything else because you just get up earlier and you can do that. But if you ever watch a baby or a puppy wake up, all they do is stretch. And it's like, if you can do the same thing, it really warms you up, makes you less prone to injury later on. It just kind of like lets all the air get through. You're like, take that deep breath in and just slow down. I love that, Ron.
Yeah. And I'm doing better at doing it for some reason with my dog is just more peaceful.
Yeah.
No phone, no TV, no screen. I'm breathing. And I don't know. I can't encourage people enough to kind of slow down and just, we know fresh air is medicine, right? Food is medicine. Movement is medicine. Those kind of things help us heal. I think our immune systems are better. We don't need as much. Yeah. I'm not going to get off on that tangent, but
you're right. And I think that you preach that with your work and with your lifestyle and what you do, but it's also, I know that you basically consult upon that, and you, as a leader, you're telling your groups and teams behind you to live that life, but you're actively living it. You're not just talking the talk, right? You're doing it, and you're saying what you're saying. You're living your life the way that you're talking about it, and it does come off of you like you're magnetic in the sense, like, I love your water over your coffee cup because it does bleed off, right? And it's like, when I see that, I'm like, man, that guy is spreading optimism already, and he's a great leader, and he's somebody that I want to work with. He's somebody that I want to work with or under. And it's like, you're that leader that people want to be with. And I love that. And how can people find out more about you and your business now? Like, what platform are you using, and where can people find out more about your book? Because these are the things you talk about in depth in your book. And I would encourage all of the listeners to get a copy of Redefining Possible, because it really is, you break it down and you go through stories, and you talk about your health, your kids' health. And it's just like, it's something that everybody can relate to. And I know that you do that with Southwestern Consulting as well, but where can people find out more about you and get a copy of your book?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I thank you, by the way, just for what you said before that to me is the greatest compliment. I just think when we're all being true and authentic and genuine, right? This fear of being hypocrisy and looking back and feeling like I was trying to act like something I wasn't is heavy. So I appreciate you saying that. So yeah, pretty easy. Redefiningpossible.com is one space, or just throwing it on Amazon. Those are two ways to get the book. And then for me personally, LinkedIn or Instagram are probably the two easiest. I'm pretty easy to find, just Ron Alford. But if you send a message through any of those platforms, I'll absolutely reply and reach out. And if it's on the book, or if it's just exploring what coaching would look like, or doing a workshop for your company, or whatever it might be, those are the best ways.
Even for Southwestern Consulting, based off of your site? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just the redefiningpossible.com or Ron Alford on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are easy ones.
And I know you respond to everybody. You've always been welcome, and anyone I've ever talked to, and our mutual friend and coworker is Amy Donaldson, and she's always highlighting you and talking about you, and she cannot say enough good things about you. So I just wanted to give her a shout out because she gave me a shout out because she's a wonderful person. And I just thank you so much for being a part of this today, Ron, and thank you for letting me listen to you. I look forward to sharing the stage with you one day. But then also just to continue our relationship, man. And I look up to you, and I can relate to your story, and I think you're doing a great justice to this world and making a greater impact. And I love what you're doing, Ron. So thank you.
Yeah, Lou, thank you for what you're doing, brother. Thanks for having me on and being a little part of what you're building. Awesome to be here, buddy.
Well, thank you. And I owe you a coffee 100% over when I'm on the West Side.
Sounds good. I like coffee.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. Have a wonderful day.
You too, buddy.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Navigating No. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.